Great news! Firefly did reach out via email to let me know that they would offer me a discount if I kept the guitar. While not as great of a discount as one of my viewers got from the last video, I was still pretty happy with it. So I'm going to go ahead and keep the guitar and fix all the issues that I had with it. First up, I'm going to level those frets and polish them because they were terrible. If you didn't see my last video, check it out. You'll see how bad they were. Then I'm going to add a couple of custom elements to it, and then I'm going to go ahead and throw a different pickup in the bridge. Let's get started. These are the tools I'm going to be using to work on my frets. I'll be using the fret kisser from StewMac. It's a fret rocker that has diamond grit in the center, and that will grind away and level the fret that is high. I used a leveling beam before and I didn't enjoy it. It's a lot of extra work and it makes you do the entire fretboard. To crown the frets, I'm going to be using the S-File from MusicNomad. It's nice because the file is only on the sides and the top center is completely smooth. That means it'll only round the frets without taking any extra material off the top. Last but not least, I'll be using some painter's tape to make sure that my fretboard does not get all marked up or damaged. Alrighty, let's get these strings off. And we have our first issue. These locking tuners will not unlock. Two of them are stuck. So I'm gonna have to bust out some pliers and I'm gonna use a piece of cloth so hopefully I won't tear up the tuners in the process. Next, I'll be using a notched straight edge. This will allow me to straighten back out the neck because without the string tension, the neck is gonna bend a little bit. Let's go ahead and tape up those frets. At first, it takes a couple pieces to cover one fret, and then as the frets get smaller, I'll need to cut the tape in half down the center, and then I'll just use a straight portion next to the fret wire. I'll go ahead and use the rocker to find the high frets, and I'm going to mark them. Now, normally I would be using a red marker, but all I had laying around was this brown one. It's fret kisser time! Let's see if this thing actually works. Now, this actually took quite a bit of effort, so I'm going to go ahead and say that these are indeed stainless steel frets. The next step is crowning. The S-File makes this a breeze. I had tools before where it was just a file and you had to kind of guess and hope that you were grinding out the side, and then you were always a little worried you're taking material out the top. But with this one, you just go back and forth and you can feel the material grinding away on the sides. And as soon as it quits feeling like it's grinding, you are done. The final step now is to polish the frets. I have these sanding pads that go from really coarse to a finer grit, and they're all color based. I'll stack them in the correct order and I'll work my way through starting with the lowest and going to high. And this part takes a long time. I actually had to take a few breaks from it. I was actually starting to get a little bit sore, just the repetitive motion. I forgot that I had a Dremel tool and I probably could have saved a lot of time if I would have just used it. But here we are. Look how shiny smooth that is. Next up, I'm gonna add strap locks. I add these to every single one of my electric guitars. I absolutely love these things, and I've never had one fail. We are going to go with the Dunlop brand, and I really like these. Installing is a breeze. Just be careful when you're using this power drill. It can slip and you can easily stab and mar your guitar. Just take your time and you'll be okay. Now sometimes you need to actually have a drill bit in and drill a little bit into your guitar because the Dunlop screws are normally longer than the stock screws that come on your guitar. But these Firefly ones are actually pretty long. Now we just add the button to the screw and then the felt ring, which protects your guitar's finish. Again, be very careful when reinstalling the buttons. I like to store my stock parts in the Dunlop package. That way, if I ever have to sell the guitar, I can always get the stock ones out and put them back on if I need to. Here you can see the screw that came out of my Fender Telecaster. You can see it's a little bit shorter, and on this one you probably would want to drill a little bit. The way these work is super simple. When the top is pressed in, it releases the pressure that holds the bearings into the channel on the guitar. Since I already had the part installed on my guitar strap, I could save money by just getting the part that I needed to actually go on my guitar. It ended up being about half price. There it is, snug. That thing's not going anywhere. Now I can be cool like Alex from All Time Low and spin my guitar without worrying about flying off. Unlike this internet legend who sent his guitar up into orbit. I've always loved guitars that are covered in stickers. I think they just look so great and they have so much personality. The problem is I work some bigger events like weddings and corporate events, and a stickered up guitar just doesn't look that classy and can look kind of unprofessional. So then I got the idea that what if I contained all the chaos of the stickers into the pickguard? And I figured, what if I threw that behind a clear pickguard so that it would be protected? So I'm a visual guy and I don't like to waste my time. So we're gonna fire up Photoshop and kind of do a mock-up real quick to see what this looks like before I spend a lot of time doing it. I found an image with random stickers on it, and I thought this was really cool. There's a bunch of just random logos. And then I found one that was just random band logos, and I really connected with this one. And I also liked how it was a little bit less chaotic, where everything was more laid out linear. So now came the task of thinking of 30 to 50 bands that I really enjoyed that I could hunt down their logos for and put on the guitar. Now I'm sure 98% of you are going to hate these bands, but that's okay. Now this actually takes quite a bit of time. If you haven't printed before, you can't just grab any JPEG off the internet because it's going to look very blurry or pixelated, and that's just not going to look good on the guitar. So I spent some time finding these. You can see the red outline, which I use as a guide to show where I need to keep the stickers inside, but you want to have a little bit of bleed. I printed it on photo paper to make the colors look even more rich. I taped the photo to a cutting board, and then I taped the pickguard down. And I made some minor adjustments, and then very carefully I cut the photo using the pickguard as a guide and using my X-Acto knife. Let's go ahead and remove that stock pickguard. Be careful when removing the screws again. I like to use a power drill. I know it's dumb. But with a little wiggling, the pickguard comes right off. And holy smokes, it was actually pretty gross under here. It looked like there was grease, there's some chipped paint, there's some minor dings. Also, the shielding paint, if that's actually shielding paint, looks like something maybe my 6-year-old painted. And you can see some more chips and some more crud over here. I punctured the photo with the screws to hold it in place. These darn springs are the toughest part to line up with that screw, but I screw it in just enough to get it in, and then I'll adjust the height later. I carefully throw in all the screws, but I don't tighten them all the way. I like to hand tighten them because if you saw the video of my EART guitar or EART guitar or whatever you want to call it, I actually had a head break off of one of those screws and now it's stuck in there forever, so I'm going to hand tighten. Now one thing I hadn't considered was the adjustment ring for the truss rod. So I had to bust out my Dremel and I didn't have the right pieces to do this well. I got it to work, it's not great, but nobody's probably going to notice. I'm actually really happy with how this turned out. It looks so much better than I could have even imagined. I was even able to sneak in a picture of my son in there. Now on to the last upgrade, the pickup. Now I'm going to be throwing the Chopper T in there, and that's what I put on my other Telecaster that I was using. And the Chopper T is why I bought a Telecaster in the first place. I heard somebody playing it and I thought, that guitar sounds tough. And I really enjoy the way it sounds. Now the Chopper T comes in a few colors. The one that's on my EART guitar is black, and I wanted it to stand out a little bit more in this guitar. So let's go back to Photoshop. Now one of my favorite colors is white and gold. So let's start with the white pickup with the gold rails. I thought that would actually look better. I just don't like that. It kind of looks like white chocolate. So let's try black with gold. There it is. I really like the way that looks. So I went ahead and ordered it. Now this thing took forever to get in. I ordered it direct from DiMarzio, and they sent it USPS. Normally the US Postal Service ships really, really fast to me because I'm right in the middle of the country. It never went anywhere for 2 weeks, so I canceled that order and I ordered one off of Reverb, and it was going to be here in 2 days. Well, here's the cool part. It came into my town, and I was all excited it was going to be here, and then it shipped all the way across the state to a different town. And then it shipped all the way back to a town that's probably 10 minutes from me, and sat there for a day, and then finally 2 days later it was delivered to me. I'm going to tape off the guitar to protect the finish. It doesn't take too long, and knowing me, I'll scratch it, or worse, I'll burn it with my soldering iron. And I speak from experience. I had a white Gibson Les Paul Studio, and I was doing some work on there, and it does not look cool when you burn a hole in white. First, I'll remove the old pickup. Once you unsolder it from the pots and the switch, you just have to wiggle it out and slide the wires out. The Chopper T is mounted on a circuit board with a quick connect plug. I fish the wires back through, and then I get it all lined up so that I can go ahead and solder. Now check out how crazy thin these wires are on this chopper T. They were so thin that when I was using my automatic wire stripper, it was just cutting them. So I had to cut it by hand with a knife. All right, it's all soldered up. Got some shrink tubing in there, and let's put her back together. Let's take a look at the final product. I think it has a lot of my personality in it, and I'm really happy with how that custom pickguard came out. And all the frets are silky smooth and super shiny, and it plays so great now. This thing is 100% gig ready. Thanks for joining me on this adventure of taking this terrible neck on a beautiful guitar and making this guitar into something that's customized, that speaks towards my personality, that I'm going to really enjoy playing for many, many years to come. Let me know if you've customized your Fireflies or if you've done any fun projects like I did with the pickguard and how they turned out. I would love to see your projects. Please consider liking and subscribing. I'm trying to get the channel monetized so I can get even more fun gear and I can do even more fun projects in the future.